right, folks, welcome back to the channel and to another episode of Fresh Finds. As you can see, I'm in a totally different workshop space right now. If you've been keeping up with the channel lately, you know that my wife and I recently moved to Long Island, Port Jefferson, New York, to be specific, and that's where we're at right now. We just moved in a couple days ago, so as you can imagine, things are quite a mess, especially down here in the workshop. You never know how much golf stuff you have until you have to move it. That's what I've been telling people. And I thought I had done a pretty good job of paring down and giving clubs away to my friend Jacob Orchid in Connecticut. He helped co-found the Connecticut Hickory Golf group with me. But even after all that, I still got everything behind me that we had to move. So what I want to do today is just kind of show you a quick look at the new workshop. Obviously it's not set up, but I want to give you an idea what I have in mind for this space, and I also want to show you how I packed up some of my stuff in case you're ever in the process of moving and you've got to move a bunch of clubs. Maybe there's some tips you can pick up from how I did it, or you, better yet, you can tell me how to better pack this stuff when I move it again, because I'm sure this won't be the last time we move. I also picked up some clubs, believe it or not. Didn't mean to, but found myself in a couple situations where I was able to acquire some new clubs, and thought I would show you those today. So I guess first of all, let's talk about the packing of the old workshop, and kind of show you how I'm going to transition into this space, which, if you can't tell, is a lot larger than what I was using in Connecticut. I'm real excited about how I'm going to be able to utilize this space, not only for projects in the workshop, but also for podcasts and other endeavors that I'm planning on expanding through the channel as we go. So let's just kind of give you a quick tour if we can. I'm going to get behind the camera here and just kind of scan different areas. So we're going to go over here first, and there on the floor you see two workbenches still in the box. So if you remember my previous workbench, that was I bought that at Harbor Freight, and it was a 4-drawer, I think it's Windsor. Maybe there's a more longer name to it than that. But it was their basic carpentry or woodworking workbench. And it worked pretty well, but in lieu of like trying to move that huge thing and get it out of the workshop and put it on a truck, I figured I would look and see if there was an upgrade, and I'm not quite sure what I picked up was an upgrade, but it's the latest version of that same workbench. It only has 3 drawers, but it does seem to be maybe a little bit better made than the previous one. So that's the Yukon 60-inch 3-drawer wood workbench you see right there in that box. And then the box behind it is just a standard workbench that I picked up from Menards, which is a basically Midwest-based big box hardware store. And I picked that up actually 2 years ago and never built it when I was in Connecticut because I didn't really have the space for it where I wanted to use it. But now I do. So the plan here is to basically set up my primary 3-drawer workbench, possibly on this, probably on this wall. I have to see how it's going to set up. But what I'd like to do is have this set up for basic, smaller projects, and then the larger, heavy-duty workbench will be where I put my vise and some other things when I want to do heavier-duty projects. So that means that in the future I'm going to be able to do some shaft making projects and actual club making projects that I'm hoping to learn how to do from Brad Carando. So I'm excited about that because it's going to give me a nice space to kind of spread out. I really liked how Brad's workshop was set up. You could sort of see glimpses of that from the video that we did together back in the winter. But I think this space right here as I scan around is going to give me plenty of room to set that up. I'll be able to kind of set up a cart over here and a possible other workstation for the ball making process that I do. I've been using Titleist Truefield balls for my pre-1935 rounds, and I'd like to turn those into mesh balls at some point in the future. So I'll have that station set up. But you can see back there is everything that was in the old Hickory Hacker Central. And I'll jump back in the scene here real quick and just kind of pick some stuff out. One thing, I'll move this out of the way first. So I think my biggest tip for moving a lot of golf clubs, no matter what they are, hickory clubs or modern clubs, is try to pick up as many of these travel carriers as you can, because you can get a lot of clubs in here. This thing's super heavy. I wouldn't try to travel on a plane with this many clubs, but I've got, let's just look in here. Yeah, I have 2 golf bags in here. They're loaded with clubs. These are sets that I'm building. So what I did was I organized as I was packing so that it wouldn't be too crazy when I was unpacking. And I know now when I just open up one of these bags what I've got in here, so it was really nice being able to organize the clubs that way. And the cool thing about these bags is you can find these in garage sales and yard sales, whatever, for pretty cheap. I actually have over here for my primary set the Club Glove last bag, and I love this bag. I know it's expensive, but it's really well padded. I trust anything in here, and I've traveled with it as well on planes with hickory clubs, so I know that it works well. But you definitely got to get the stiff arm, which is you put it in the bag and it keeps clubs from kind of, you know, pushing up to the top and potentially getting broken when the bag's getting thrown around. So I've got my best clubs in this, and then I also have this hard shell. So I was able to move a lot of clubs right away just utilizing those golf bags, those travel bags. The other nice tip though, let me move this out of the way. If you can get your hands on some of these old fiber bins, these were, they're pretty prevalent up here in the Northeast, but any kind of factory that had a lot of fiber that was wrapped up or in a spool, they used a lot of these kinds of containers. I think these were probably from the 1940s or 1950s. They've got, you know, it's very rigid board, so they're super sturdy. They've got a metal ring on the bottom. You can put a lot of clubs in these and stand them up similar to how I have these here. I actually have golf bags filled with clubs in here, and I can get 4 bags basically in one of these. And then these are also what I use in my shop to store clubs. So all of my brassies are together in here. So that worked out pretty well. I will say one thing I'm glad I didn't try to do that I was originally going to do, and I'll just kind of tell you this as a warning. So these are the display racks that I use. These are, you know, basically for fishing rods or reels, and they stand up and they get these little clips. I think they're great for display, and my original plan was to basically take the display as it was and just set it on the trailer. Well, when I did that, I noticed that any kind of movement with the trailer was going to make this thing move quite a bit, and eventually I'm sure the clubs would have fallen out of the clips, and then I would have had clubs all over the floor. So I'm glad I didn't do that, and I ended up taking them off of this and ended up putting them inside this box, and then I stuffed a blanket in between them. So I've got clubs around the perimeter of this box, a blanket stuffed in there to kind of keep it tight, and then when this was on the truck and it was on the trailer and it was moving around, nothing was moving. I didn't even damage any of these old vintage grips. These are all my pre-1900 gutty clubs. So, and then with modern clubs, I mean, you could throw those around, no big deal. And let's talk a little bit about the clubs that I've found recently. So part of, you know, the whole moving process probably took us, I don't know, in total 2 months, because that's when we found out we were going to move. And then we, you know, had to get our house in Connecticut on the market. So that's when we started packing up and staging the house for selling. And it's just felt like a super long process. But the upside to that was, because we did it in stages, there wasn't like a huge push at the end where we just were inundated with moving stuff. You know, we were able to kind of take some breaks. And so I did get an opportunity to go up to Lake Sunapee Country Club in New London, New Hampshire. and play in the Lake Sunapee Hickory Classic. Lake Sunapee Country Club is a fantastic golf course. It's a Donald Ross design from the 1920s, and it was Gene Saracen's home course during the summer. So he actually had a house off of one of the holes there. So I got an opportunity to go up there. That's the hat I'm wearing right here. And while I was up there, it was great to just kind of take a day away from the packing and play some golf. We had a beautiful day. And Bill Wardwell, who's part of the Massachusetts Hickory group, he was up there selling some clubs and gave me a good deal on 2 smooth face small head niblicks. So the cool thing about these is, you know, when I'm telling people how you can build a beginner gutty set, I'm basically telling them, in lieu of finding one of these, you're better off just looking for a smooth face lofter that's 40 degrees or higher. But with these 2 finds, I'll be able to build at least 2 sets where you've got the whole array of clubs that you would have had at your disposal in the gutty era. These are probably 1900-ish. This one looks to be, I have to look a little bit closer at the maker's mark on here and find out, but it's, I think both of these would qualify for National Hickory Championship play. So that's fun. You know, part of this whole thing, this move is, you know, I had to keep the business going. You know, I had to keep trying to find clubs and, you know, continue building sets. And I've had great business actually all the way up through the process. So I really appreciate everybody who's reached out and asked about buying a club or buying a set. It's kept me motivated and kept me going and helped me organize how I was moving everything out of the shop. So keep those orders coming. If there's a club you're looking for or you're looking to get into hickory golf at all with a beginner set, reach out to me and I'll be able to get you set up pretty quick. I'm hoping it won't take me more than a couple days to actually get the workshop up and running, and I'll be able to get back into building the beginner gutty sets that I was working on before I started packing everything up. So in addition to those 2 clubs from Bill, I also picked up really good deal on these 2 deep groove mashie niblicks. Mashie niblicks in general are probably one of the tougher clubs for me to find when I'm building beginner sets. I can find more niblicks than I can mashie niblicks lately. You know, which is kind of the reverse of what it was about a couple years ago when I first started collecting clubs. So I've got plenty of niblicks right now, but not enough mashie niblicks. So Bill knew that, and he picked up or found a couple in his selection for me to pick up. And cool thing about these is the deep groove. You know, some people, it's a debate as to whether or not this actually produces more backspin on a ball. But one thing is for sure, when you use these clubs with any ball, it's going to chew them up pretty quick. So don't use a ball you really like. Don't use a McIntyre ball, for instance, if you're trying to keep it in good shape. And that actually reminds me that I've reached a partnership agreement with McIntyre that I'm real excited to announce. So they're going to be sponsoring the Gutty Golf videos, the Gutty Golf course vlogs coming up. So the next Gutty Golf course vlog from this date will probably be a couple weeks on the channel. That'll be my 18-hole round at Metamora Fields in Illinois. That was part of the oddball event, 2-day oddball event that Denny and Kathy Lane put on. Day 1 was feathery, and if you watch the course vlog at Hillcrest, that was day 1. And then day 2 is Metamora Fields, and that's going to be the premier round that McIntyre Golf sponsored. So I'm basically using all of the different variety of McIntyre balls that Dave Brown offers for Gutty Golf. So that includes the Gutta Percha Park, the Limited Flight Braid, and then the Brown, which is just a line cut modern core ball, low compression ball. So I'm excited about that and really appreciate Dave for providing me with the golf balls to use in those Gutty rounds. So that's coming up. But anyway, I sidetracked myself. These mashie niblicks are going to go in beginner sets, kind of the next tier of beginner set if you're looking to get a little bit better club, because these are really cool clubs. And, you know, you can judge for yourself whether they produce any backspin on the ball, but they're collectible and they're also fun to play with. Moving on to these 4 clubs here, the old workbench that I had in my shop is now in Jacob Orchid's workshop. So you may, you probably, if you've gotten into buying hickory clubs online, you've probably run into Jacob and not realized it. Him and I are both confused for each other quite a bit because we're both Connecticut hickory golfers. But we've kind of decided that we're going to focus on different areas of the internet for selling clubs. And Jacob is very active on Reddit. So if you've done anything related to hickory golf on the threads on Reddit, you've interacted with Jacob most likely. And I just wanted to mention that because, like I said, we get confused for each other and people think he's the Hickory Hacker. And, he has to say, no, that's a friend of mine, though. And been very appreciative, actually, of the number of people that he's referred to me through Reddit. But anyway, as part of the trade where I sent, I gave the workbench to him and then also traded him a couple putters. He collects unique putters. He gave me a few clubs that he knew I was looking for, including 2 more gutty clubs that I'm excited about. Now that I'm a New York guy, I figured I should probably start building some New York-centric sets. And so these 2 clubs are probably close in loft, so they probably won't end up in the same set. But they're both lofters. This first one is a Tucker Brothers. Willie Tucker and his brother made pretty good quality clubs at the turn of the century in New York. This is from their A1 line. I would guess this is probably 1901 or so. And then we've got a George Lowe when he was at, I'm not going to be able to read, Diker Meadow? I think that's right. Which was a golf course, is a golf course, I think, still, here in the New York area. This dates to about 1900. So both of these clubs will make it into gutty sets as well. Jacob also collects BGI clubs, which is a Bridgeport, Connecticut brand at the turn of the century. But he was, because I've traded or sold most of my BGI clubs, I wanted at least one representative to stick around in some of my sets. So I picked up this standard blade putter from him. This dates to probably 1901, 1902. Actually, I can verify that exactly. Yeah, it's pre-1902 because it's stamped with the J.H. Williams diamond, W inside of a diamond here on the inside of the hosel. And I know that Williams produced clubs for BGI and other early American makers until about 1902. So that dates that club. And then finally, this club is interesting to me because it was made in Chicago. It's the Rustless Golf Company. Sometimes people confuse this stamping and think that it's a golf course. It's not. It's Rustless Golf Company, and they made rustless heads. Originally, they were smooth face. Somebody actually, probably a club pro or club maker, added this after this club was made because I'm pretty sure this probably was made as a smooth face club. But these date to about 1908, so they're late in the era of making smooth face clubs. It's possible, some of these lines are pretty straight, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Rustless made this as it looks right now. But that's all to say that I have a short set that I picked up from Bryant Murphy in Illinois that is all smooth face. So this will go in that set even though it's not a smooth face. It's a driving iron. And I've become quite fond of driving iron. As you're going to see in course vlogs to come, I've basically kicked the brassy out of my bag and I'm only using driving iron off the tee. It's a 19-degree Tom Stewart driving iron that works really well for me. And I've talked in the past about the criteria that I use to determine whether or not a club is worth using. And I kind of go off of this 1 out of 10, or how many shots out of 10 do you hit well with that club? And if it's less than 5 out of 10, then it's probably not a club you should keep using because you're just not consistent enough with it. At least that's the criteria I use. So as far as brassies are concerned, lately I've been hitting my brassy maybe 1 or 2 shots well out of 10, which is not a good enough ratio for me to keep it in the bag. The driving iron, on the other hand, I'm up to about 7 to 8 shots out of 10 are pretty much what I want. So that's about as good as I can get with a club. And I'm looking at trying to find a driving iron for my gutty set now as well. I have a couple candidates that I'm going to try out once I get a chance to actually play some golf again. But I don't know. You know, there's some players in Europe. There's one in particular who was a former European PGA player, and he does not use a brassy at all. He only uses a driving iron off the tee. He's a pro, so you know, not the best comparison for me. But that is to say that there are some Hickory golfers who just don't use a brassy, and if you're having trouble with your brassy, I would recommend trying to find a longer iron. It seems counterintuitive because, I mean, this 19-degree driving iron that I'm using right now is a true butter knife. There's no offset to it, very little forgiveness if you don't hit it right, but it tells you immediately when you don't hit it right. And, you know, I would not think that a player of my capability, you know, 25 handicap as of today, would be able to hit or, you know, a club like that. But for whatever reason, I've kind of put the, you know, the logic out of my mind with that club, and I hit that club so much better than I do a brassy. You know, I can chalk it up possibly to the fact that the brassy sweet spot's very small as well, and may even be providing even less forgiveness than the iron, which makes sense, I think. And also the loft makes a difference. You know, the more loft you can use off the tee, the better off you're going to be. Even my poor shots with the driving iron are straight. So I think the loft is definitely helping me. 19 degrees versus I think it was 11 or 12 degrees on my brassy. So, you know, like I said, if you're having a difficult time with the brassy off the tee, don't be afraid to try a driving iron. And if you can't find a driving iron or you're just not getting along with that, go to your mid iron, 25-degree club. Again, if you can find, this is kind of a logic that goes with modern golf too when somebody's starting out. But basically find a club that you can tee off with consistently and just get yourself in the fairway. You know, you're going to be upset at first that you're not hitting it as far as you could be off the tee. But I guarantee you, if you're playing most of your round from the fairway off the tee, you're going to probably shoot a better score and you're going to have a lot more fun. And you're not going to put yourself in those situations where you have to, you know, rescue yourself out of rough. So that's kind of the logic that I'm using right now, and it's worked out pretty well for me. My scores are starting to slowly come down because of that approach. And, you know, when I was playing at Lake Sunapee, it was probably the only thing I was doing really well was getting off the tee with the driving iron. That was one of these rare days for me where the short game just completely fell apart. And I know my short game's not great to start with, but it's one of the few things that I was able to rely on for a while. And yeah, the putting was atrocious that day. The chips were bad, but my driving off the tee with the driving iron and my approaches into the green were probably as well as I've played all season. And you'll see that in the course vlog later this summer. So I guess that is, oh, one more thing I want to mention. As far as sponsorships go, I'm also excited to announce that my feet are now sponsored by Fiddler Golf. You may have saw or may have watched the video I did a few weeks ago talking about what I wear when I'm playing Hickory golf. And in that video, I reviewed the premier line of Fiddler golf shoes. They're the white ones that I wear now. And I liked them so much that I reached out and I said, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a partnership? And I kind of explained the partnership that I have with Stuart and Jacoby, where they've provided me with the golf bag and other accessories that I use in the videos. And they were excited to work with me, which I was excited to hear about. And so they sent me a couple more pairs of Fiddler shoes, and you're going to see those in the course vlogs to come where I'm playing pre-1935 clubs. I think I actually may even wear the black shoes that I'll be showing you in the future in gutty rounds, because I think they're kind of, you know, they're plain enough that I don't think you'd be able to see a difference, but they're really comfortable shoes. I wore the black pair when I was at Lake Sunapee because there was a chance of rain, and I like having black shoes for rain. So yeah, I wore those shoes in that round and they worked out great, and I'm real excited to work with Fiddler on exposing their shoes to more people here in the American market. And look forward to what that relationship turns into. So, yeah, a lot going on, obviously. And I want to take this moment to thank everybody who watches these videos on a weekly basis, who sticks with these rambling videos sometimes. I really enjoy putting them together. I really enjoy interacting with you guys through email when you send me questions. You know, I've learned through this entire project, the Hickory Hacker project, that there's something to be said for finding your passion and pursuing it. You know, I'm not making any money really off of this, but I'm making enough to maintain what I'm doing, and I'm really grateful to everybody on YouTube that's subscribed, who has liked a video, who has commented on a video, and just really want to extend that appreciation to you all. You're motivating me to keep doing these videos, and I've got bigger ideas to come because of your interactions and your involvement with the videos. So thank you for that. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this week. I'll be back next week with another course vlog. We finally got internet here in the house, so I'll be able to get that up and running again. And look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks, folks. Take care.